I'm waiting for it to give me the actual confirmation that I went live. If you are new to my channel, hold on a second. This is the confusing thing about Mevo. It just spins and yet you're probably live. So hang on guys, hang on. I'm published, all right, so I'm live. Check it out. My name is Seth Miranda. This is my channel, and if you just found me, I'm a pro photographer here in New York City, and I'm a host on other various platforms in the photo, video, audio industry. And I have a studio right here in Chelsea, Manhattan. And every night I tried to go live on Instagram and IGTV and show some things that I was getting asked in my DMs. And one of them was, how do I use Profoto remotes? And I'm going to show you all of the various ways you can trigger your lights using the Profoto Air Remote system. Basically, I did this on IGTV, and then I keep getting messages ask me, how do I use, hey, what's going on everybody? I see everybody filling in the chat room. I keep getting asked the same questions about this, and I send people to the link for the IGTV video, and I keep getting messages back going like, yay, I hate vertical video on IGTV. And of course, there's a YouTube audience that could probably use this as well. I'm sure there's plenty of endless videos on how to use Profoto triggers. I'm gonna show you how I explain it to people, okay? So let's go to a top-down view really quickly. Right here, sorry guys for the dizziness, but I promise it'll be worth it. Okay, there's our top-down view. And oh, I'm gonna lock that. And we're going to zoom down right here. Okay, so right here is the basic family of, hey, what's going on? Mike, Steve, Bike Vision Scotland, and Ian Knight. What's going on, everybody? So this is our choices, right? So before we really only had these two. In fact, we may have only had this one when it was back in the manual days. And now we have these right here. I'm gonna go through each one individually and show you some commonalities between them, and you guys can make your decisions on which one works for you. Maybe you already own one of these and have issues with functionality and stuff like that. Let me know if the audio is okay, because I'm literally speaking down into the mic, so it might be a little blown out. I apologize if that's the case. All right, so Profoto Air Remote. Air meaning the wireless remote system. We're in an age where everything is wireless. We don't have to worry about the ever troubles of having a sync cable, right? But you know, those still exist. Let's go through the most common one, which is the Air Remote right here. This is the Air TTL with a Nikon shoe, C4 Nikon. So if you don't know what remote you have, or if someone hands you one, or if you're buying one secondhand, you can see right there it says for Nikon. It'll say for Fuji, for Canon, or Air Remote TTL N for Nikon, C Canon, F for Fuji, and so on and so forth. So there's that. In the Profoto system, you have 8 channels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then if you hit it again, it'll go back to 1. If you don't know about channels and groups, we can quickly go into that. So channels is my entire lighting setup, which means all of my lights are under one channel. My groups are individual lights. If someone is in the same space as me, let's say I'm shooting at a convention center, I can keep my channel to channel 3, and anyone that's on so this is on channel 1. If I change this to channel 3, right? So now this is on channel 3. This will fire that light, right? So let me go into group C, and you can see that's firing this light, right? Because it's channel 3, group C. If someone has group C activated and they're in channel 3, but I'm using mine in channel 4, no sync. It does not fire. That's what you do to keep everyone out of your playground. So if you're in a place where other people are shooting, or like we shoot here in the Adorama store and they're always testing out lights, odds are they're using channel 1. So we always stay away from channel 1, because if we start setting up lights in channel 1 and they're testing a light over by the lighting counter, odds are they're going to start firing our lights. Our groups are individual lights. So right now this is set to channel 3, group C. If I change this to group A, now this light is group A, but I could have multiple lights on group A. So I can have pretty much as many lights as I want on group A, as long as they're within range. And then group A is controlled by this trigger. So, oh, hold on. I'm firing like multiple lights. See, I got like 16 lights here. They're all firing. You can see that group A is going up by tenths of a stop. If I said to myself, oh man, I just need one stop of light, I don't want to keep going up by tenths of a stop, I can hold energy by 1 and it'll go +1. It'll just jump straight up one whole stop. So the Profoto system is 1 through 10, right? This is where people get misconceptions about. So with the Profoto system, it's not by full power, half power, quarter power. It is, but they give it a numeric value because you can go down by tenths of a stop, which you can't in some other systems. So when people say like, oh, it's on 5, the reality of that is that this is not half power. That is not half power. That's halfway of your range, but it's not half power. What this means is 10 is full power, 9 is one stop lower, so that's half power, quarter power, 1/8, 16th, 32nd, 64th, 1/28th, and oh wow, am I not doing this in frame, guys? Why don't you tell me that? Oh, the whole time, I'm so sorry. And then this is 256. Wow, I'm totally doing this out of frame. Why don't you guys tell me? Let's do this again, I'm sorry. 256th, 1/28th, 64th, 32nd, 16th, 1/8, quarter, half power, and this is full power. Wow, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to like look at 3 screens: the chat, this thing right here, and this screen. I'm so sorry, guys. This is what happens when you go live, right? So now I'm at full power. This is one stop lower. That's half power, and so on and so forth. And these are all tenths of a stop. Now, a lot of people have said like, oh, they don't really work. It's not really tenths of a stop. I can tell you in my years of experience of using Profoto, they do work. And 2/10 of a stop can change the difference between like a micro wrinkle and not. It really, if you're really gauging your fill light based on shadows, a few tenths of a stop is a big difference, okay? So let's go back to the remote. Let me put this over here. I got like 5 A1s out here, and let's clear this away. So we have our mode, which is TTL, which means that when I take a shot, it's going to release a pre-flash like all TTL does. It releases a pre-flash before the exposure, measures that light, and then adjusts my strobe's power based on the f-stop and ISO that I'm set at, okay? So in reality, it's having like a light meter in your system. And I'll say this, that Profoto and Nikon have had some of the best TTL in my experience. Canon shoots a little hotter. So if you have to get used to that a little bit. And then let's say I like my exposure, I can just hit manual and it locks in the numeric value on my strobe and it'll keep it at that. And I can adjust it by tenths as I go, or full stops if I want. So that's one of the key things that Profoto did first. Now a lot of other like third-party companies are copying that technology or that style of just taking a meter reading with the TTL and then be able to lock it in. Before this, you would take a TTL exposure and the exposure value would dissipate from your flash. A lot of speed lights, Nikon, Canon, they would take the TTL, use that exposure, and then the setting on that strobe would disappear forever. Profoto is the first ones to really allow you to lock in that TTL and work with it manually. Because while TTL can be super finicky, but it can also be very precise. And if you want to use TTL, what you have to remember is that the strobe and the camera don't know what you're shooting. If you're shooting a white wedding dress and it's giving you a little blown out highlights, but it's getting great skin exposure, it doesn't know that you're trying to shoot for the dress. So you have to keep that in mind and maybe go to manual and take it down 2 or 3/10 of a stop to take the bite off of those highlights. Let me see. How is the new Rode mic you're using? No sound. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this Rode Go mic that I'm using right now. Maybe I'll do a video on that too. So let's go back into this. So now I have group A selected, group B selected, group C selected, and I can change that. If I want to go, oh man, my whole set is off by a stop, I can take off the selected group, it goes into master, and now I'm changing all my groups at once. Let's say I say that's good, but I want to get my fill light a little down. I just take that down a few stops, I select B and take it down, and now I have the ratio I want. One of the things that people need to get used to if they haven't worked in multiple lighting setups before is that group A is typically, oh man, I keep doing this. Group A is typically our key light. Group B is our fill light, and Group C is like our background hair light. So if I go A, I set it, I go into TTL, I shoot, I set it, I go into manual and lock it in. Then I go, okay, B, I set that light at TTL, lock into manual, and then what I'll do is I'll take it down by a stop, right? And then I know I have a key light that's set, my fill light that's going to be underexposed by one stop from my key, and then C, I can dial in however I feel like using it, okay? So that's a really quick way to set it up if you want to have like a recipe or a formula, and then you can work from it from there. Again, every situation is different, but that's pretty much how this works. So if I go into Group A and I have my A1 here, I can go into my modeling light, turn that on, turn that off, right? Or I can turn the head on or head off individually, right? Just like every other remote. But this is really a super simplified, clean way. And then maybe the only other thing you need to know is that the sync right here is based off of first curtain, rear curtain, or high-speed sync, and it's all automatic through the camera. So it'll say first sync probably always. Second sync, it knows that you're doing longer shutter and you put your camera into rear sync. It'll set this trigger to be rear sync as well. Also, the high-speed sync will trigger automatically when it knows that you're above your flash sync, which is usually 200th, 250th of a second for most cameras. And that's pretty much what you're looking at when it comes to the Profoto TTL Remote. I'm sorry for being off screen so much. I should probably widen this out maybe. I'll do this because I keep holding it so far out. But that's the TTL Remote. The one that has been around forever is this Air Remote right here, and you can see the differences. While you don't get TTL in here, if you can notice that on the shoes, you only have a single center pin, and you have this is the Nikon shoe with the multiple pins. The single center pin is just raw triggering, raw fire that light. This is universal for every camera that has a center pin on its shoe. So let's say you're shooting Nikon like I am, right? And I'm using this Nikon TTL remote, and I have Nikon TTL shoe A1s. Well, when I went to Tokyo and I was using a Fuji, I brought this remote and I was able to use my Nikon shoe A1 off my camera. So I was able to use the same lights I would always use, but with this remote. Does that make sense to you guys? Let me see, what are you guys saying here? Now I'm trying to see how Seth would look in a suit and tie. Would be pretty cool. I think there are pictures of me out there with a suit and tie. Thank you very much. All right, so here's the big differences. In the TTL remote, you have group A, B, and C. In the Air Remote non-TTL, you have up to group F. So you gain an extra 3 groups to control in the non-TTL. This also is a trigger, or when it turns, by the way, can we just talk about this? When you turn it on, it looks like Knight Rider. It's kind of funny. So this also is a receiver and transmitter. Over here are these ports. So if you have an older light or something that that has a sync cable, you can just plug this right in, and this becomes a receiver for another Profoto remote. So all the Profoto remotes work together. So if I had an older strobe for some weird reason, I could use my on-camera A1 to trigger this and use it as a receiver into another light. So as long as another light has a sync port, I can use my Profoto triggers, which is a big deal, which means that if you got like secondhand lights, or you're on a job and someone loaned you lights, or you went to a rental house, you could still use whatever Profoto you already have and then use this as the trigger for those other lights, if that makes sense for you guys, okay? The other thing that this does is it basically does everything this one will do, except it gives you more groups but no TTL. So if I'm in the groups, I have to cycle through all the groups individually till I get to the letter value of the light that I'm trying to control, which is like, nah. The group, if you want to control all of them at once, you hit master and you have all of them, and you can do up or down in power from all of them at one time. So there's that, okay? The one thing that you have to realize with dedicated systems is that when there's adapters that are coming out for shoes, the less adaptation you have, the less fail points you have when a light doesn't fire. The number one issue with lights not firing is it talking to each other. The one thing you're getting with Profoto is they have a higher you're paying for the licensing of their radio triggers, that they don't get into lower cost radio frequencies that are easily triggered or get lost in the noise of other wavelengths that are sitting out there in the air. So if you're working in a busy convention hall like the Javits Center, you won't have as many issues with these talking to each other. And there's plenty of wedding photographers that can tell you that they've had triggers just not work for them. There's a lot of reasons people switch over to this. Yes, this is pricey. This is about a $400 remote. This is about a $300 remote. It is pricey, but I use, look at that. It's tough, guys. You do use I've used the same remotes for everything I've ever gotten with Profoto, so I've never had to really upgrade or anything like that. And the other thing you have to remember is that they're AAA batteries, and I can't tell you how many times we've gone to set and been like, oh man, let's get ready, and we have all this gear, and the one thing we forgot is AA's, and someone has to run to a bodega. Does that old trigger have high-speed sync? That's a good question. I would say that it probably does, because you're setting it through the camera at that point, but I'm not going to say that for sure. That's a good question. I should have looked that up for you guys. High-speed sync definitely exists in this. I can't tell if it exists in this, but more often than not, you'll see this trigger out there, or people using their A1s as triggers, which is what I do. I'm not going to say for sure if this is high-speed sync. I can't confirm or deny that, so I'll tell you that. So this is your two main trigger setups that are happening out there. The other trigger would be a Profoto A1 itself, and the A1 is great because you actually get the 4 groups, right? A, B, C, D, but D and on, D, E, F are all manual. See how it says manual here? It goes to TTL, this stays manual. All your other groups, beyond no TTL, no TTL, no TTL, they just become raw lights that you can control. Okay, this is the most updated firmware, so it has the A1X interface, but these are the old A1s. These are my favorite triggers, to be honest with you, because I always have my groups up, and I have an on-camera flash that I can use as a fill. I do really like the trigger functionality of the A1. And the one thing that's really cool is, because it's a lithium-ion rechargeable battery, I don't run into the same problem I had here, where my AA's might I might run out of AAA's. I'm sorry, might run out of these batteries. These are rechargeable, and they last pretty long. Especially the new A1X battery, which does fit into the A1 battery. So it fits into the A1 unit. So there's that. I'm going to take this into channel 3 so that no one fires my light, and I'm going to go into exactly how I do this. So this is the light that I'd be firing with, and you can see it just fires this light. Now, if I want this light to fire, it can be an on-camera light, or I can go to head, turn it off, and now all it is a trigger for this light, which is awesome. Also, you have the modeling light. And by the way, just before we get into anything else, I just want you to know that this modeling light focuses down. You can see that it can really focus down. The knockoff version of this, or the third-party version of this, do not do that. They do not show you your focusing of your head in the modeling light, so just be aware of that. Not saying that, you know, one's better than the other or whatever, but I'm just saying that that is something that people don't really know about. Also, the one thing that's really great about the A1 is that when I use it with the studio strobe, this light, color, exposure, temperature, everything matches my studio strobes in Profoto. Other systems don't really do that. Typically their speed lights are cooler tone, giving you blue shadows and other tinges. And if you want to argue that you can throw CTO gels on there, I don't need to worry if I have 1/8 CTO to correct the light. That should match the rest of my system, or worry about the power ratio I'm using, blowing through that gel and not saturating enough to color correct the strobe. I'm paying money for my strobes to be the color I need them to be. Do they not charge with a dock or just micro USB-C? What charges? So this charges on it has its own charger. It has, actually here, it has its own charger. Dropping stuff all over the place. It does have its own charger, and believe me, I wish that the A1 charged in body. When I'm traveling, I wouldn't even carry more than one dock, because I know I could just charge these in there and it would be no problem. So there's that. Do you carry spare A1 batteries? Yeah, I do. I carry 2 batteries per light, and I do that because while I'm shooting, I can constantly swap them. However, lately, after the firmware updates, I haven't had an issue with my batteries not getting through a chute for me. So, but I mean, they literally take up no space, and I think they're about $60 to $80 a battery, which in the scheme of things isn't that nuts. And the new batteries are actually longer lasting. They give you like 100 more flashes or something crazy like that. So this is pretty awesome. No, I'm not talking about the frequency 2.4 gigahertz as the frequency. I'm talking about the licensing for the wavelengths they're on that no one else interrupts them. If they were the same frequency, they would actually fire each other. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that a Godox wouldn't fire a Profoto light, a Profoto trigger wouldn't fire a Godox light. They're dedicated licensing. So you can look up specs all day long. That's the power of the radio frequency. That's not the actual signature of the frequency that it's on. I love when people try to battle me on that stuff, and I love when people that tell me about the dependability of certain lights. They haven't worked jobs where there's been frequency issues and all sorts of stuff not firing their lights. And that's another reason Pocket Wizard was one of the best triggers for so long, is that they actually used a frequency that was found only in aerospace miles off of the Earth, allowing them to be the only triggers that worked in that frequency on ground level, and you were paying for that with the price of the unit. That was a lot. What I usually do when I have my on-camera light, though, is I set this actual one to group F, so that no matter what I'm working with outside, if I have like 4 other lights, no matter what, I'm never setting group F out here. I only have group F here, and that means that when I want to make this an on-camera fill light, I don't have to say like, oh no, there's another light on group C, I shouldn't mess with it. You know, it's on group F. I can dial it in however I want. Usually, I'd be shocked if on an on-camera light I go above 4 on the spectrum on here, which is 1/64th of a power. You have to realize how close you are sometimes when you're using it as on-camera fill. So there's that. I do really enjoy this as a trigger. I have to tell you, it's been really great. And you set the TTL, you take a shot, you set it back to manual, and then you dial in your lights as needed, and you're off to the races. It's been one of the best systems I've been dealing with as far as an on-camera fill light goes. It's been phenomenal. And I mean that because I bought 5 of these things straight up my own money, and I mean that. So we went over the Air TTL, we went over the manual, and now we went into the A1 as a remote. And just so you know, you can turn the heads on or off by holding them. So if you hold the head under it, I don't know if you guys can even see that. Does that come up? When you hold it, actually I'll do this. See how it turns it off? Hold it, head on. And if you also want, holding the modeling light button on any strobe will turn that head off. So you don't have to go like, oh, where is the, nope, just hold modeling down and it'll shut off that light. A lot of people get screwed up with that because they are trying to press the modeling light or something and they hold it and it shuts the head off, but the modeling light stays on, and they're like, wait, I thought it was on. I'm looking at the modeling light. It's like, yeah, but you shut the strobe head off. So hold it and it comes back on. All right. So also, I've been getting messages that people have had trouble updating the firmware in their A1s. I actually just ran into this when I updated this. It turns out that some cables, USB micro cables to update these, just doesn't work. I don't know. I used a shady cable from a cell phone and it didn't work. And then I used a legit tethering cable and it worked. So just try a different USB cable if it doesn't work. Now, having said all this, Profoto, while I trust it for my job, you guys have to remember I'm shooting every day and I can't risk things just not working, not firing and stuff like that. If you have Flashpoint, Godox, whatever, if it's working, then awesome. Keep shooting, enjoy it. You know, but when you're working commercial jobs and you have a whole crew of people behind you and they're wondering why that light isn't firing, you know, you can't go to them, hey, I saved a bunch of money on this light though. They're not going to listen to that, okay? Let's go into the last and the newest trigger that they came out with, which is this buttonless Connect. This is off display. I don't own this one. They made this so that it's like a really good single light system. You literally have no buttons on this thing. It's a dial. So USB-C chargeable. It connects via Bluetooth to your phone if you need it. But you can have it on off, switch it to auto, put it on the shoe of your camera, take a shot, switch it to manual, and then you have the ability to control your light however you want, right from the light, or from your phone in front of you. They made this so that it's super small and really easy to just plug and play and go. Really good for single light stuff. Multiple groups, it can handle it, but only through the phone app. And not for nothing, I think this was made for people who looked at any one of these triggers and went, whoa, what's all this stuff? And they kind of simplified it here. This also makes it so that your older lights can work through a Bluetooth system, kind of. Like it translates the radio trigger signal in here through this into Bluetooth into your phone, so you can control your other lights via the phone app as well, which is kind of cool. I mean, I don't really care about a phone app controlling my lights, but if I did have a bunch of lights mounted to a ceiling job, like a big commercial job on a soundstage, I can't physically go up there and remotes and all that stuff. If I have one big interface, on a phone or an iPad or something like that, and I can just click through all the groups and set it how I want, which is what Broncolor did with their Wi-Fi system, it makes a big difference actually. So just keep that in mind. Choosing the trigger that works for you is like kind of the biggest deal. I will say that this is as fail-proof as it gets, but you're really talking about bare bones. It'll fire and you have to figure everything else out. This is probably your most common, especially if you rent. They're going to give you this remote. They're going to ask you which camera you're going to be shooting with, and it's really a matter of just, do you want to stick with that system? I have both of these because I shoot Nikon mainly, but when you guys see me do a video for a new camera, I don't have a trigger for every camera in the game. I keep this one with me and my lights will work with whatever camera's there, and I have no problem shooting all manual. And of course, I really do, whenever I can, I use my A1 as my main source of trigger because it's an on-camera fill whenever I need it. It's great, and no matter what, I know I always have one charged. This, I keep a ton of AAA batteries around, but it takes forever for these things to drain a battery, to be honest with you. And it'll let you know when it's draining. And plus there's firmware updates for this that make it better on power consumption. It dims the screen whenever you're not using it and so on and so forth. So there's that. Also, keep in mind, and I've heard this a lot and I've actually experienced it myself, keep in mind that on lower cost trigger systems, the locks that screw down, they end up crushing too hard and stopping the circuit from working, and they don't work. So if you're having trouble with any other trigger that's a screw down lock not working, you probably tighten it too much. With Profoto, it literally is only one way to lock it and then unlock it. So it's not like that. No TTL is the main difference in the remotes. No, so you get more groups in the non-TTL. You have D, E, F. On the TTL remote, you only have A, B, C. So that's, in my opinion, that's your big difference, is when I go to shoot, I think about how many lights I'm using. And that's probably why I end up using the A1 more, because I have group D and I like having opposite control of my hair lights and stuff like that. Let me see the chat really quick. How long before all the camera functions are controlled by phone, tablet, and cameras with no buttons? So that's, I'd say that the whole like camera system phone app thing is mainly a consumer thing. Nobody that's working on a set is taking out their phone. And to be honest with you, I've even been on sets where they take my phone from me because they don't want to have BTS shot and released out there. So I don't think it's going to be like something that sticks around forever. I really don't. I think it's going to be a feature out there for certain models, and I think it's kind of a stopgap before, you know, they make a trigger that actually does everything the app does, you know. So I think that they're doing things like this to kind of be filling in the gaps between when they update all new system of triggers with the same cables. Some cables, data cables, other charging cables. Yeah, Mike, there's definitely a difference in the cables. I'm always concerned about app controlled stuff because phones change. I've had apps brick and no update. Yeah, I don't think apps are going to stick around forever on this particular thing. They did it for this because they were trying to make something very consumer friendly. They didn't want someone looking at a ton of buttons or a bunch of screens to go, I can't use your system. That's where this came from. Let me see. How hard is it today for pro photographers to break even with their equipment? I'll say that it's like anything else. You're investing into yourself and you make smart investments. Like when it comes to C-stands and grip, I would spend all the money in the world on that stuff because it's protecting my investment of my lights. If it fails, it breaks my light. I made a bad investment. Plus, grip goes with me to all my systems. It doesn't matter what camera, lens, whatever I use. If I have the same C-stands and stuff, it'll last with me for my whole career. When you make an investment into lighting, you have to think, am I gonna get my return on it? And is part of that return being the fact that I can get through a job faster, cleaner, easier, no issues, right? And if you're spending time at night editing things based on color balance because your light overheated and all of a sudden the colors are turning bluer or more orange and you're spending hours and hours all night editing, what really did you save, right? When I shoot with gear that I know exactly what I'm getting and it's always dependable, I have beaten the hell out of 5 of these A1s to death, dropped them on the floor, beaten the snot out of them, shooting frames per second nonstop, 13-hour days, never once overheated, never once shifted color on me, not once. And I shot for commercial makeup jobs that want Pantone colors on their makeup to show up on my screen, and that's what I'm getting out of these systems. If that's not something that's investing for you, then go ahead and stick with flashpoints and lower cost gear, as long as you keep shooting. When your gear starts becoming a hindrance for you, that's when you start looking for other options. And I'm showing you the Profoto system because I've been getting a lot of messages of people asking me, well, how do I use these remotes, Let me see. I can't afford it either right now, but the system sure is worth saving for. I have to say, I would love the Profoto B10 Plus. The Profoto B10, the B10 Plus are basically the next evolution of Profoto. They're looking really good. They're really small. I mean, really efficient, clean lights. It's a really great system. So how do you switch the individual strobes on and off, or all on or off with the Air Remote? So you can, when you go to, if they're talking about this remote, you go to A, head, and when it says 2 lines, that head is off. So I go into channel 3, group A. I got a bunch of lights firing for no reason. Hold on. So this light is on. I go to A. I can change the power of it, right up or down. If I go to the head off, it doesn't fire, see? Head off, doesn't fire, see? Channel 3, group A, channel 3, group A, head on, head goes on. If I want master, I take off the toggle, I hold head, and it turns the head on or off. See, head off, head on, head off. But it would also shut off B and C, head on. If I want to control all the power at once, if I don't toggle a specific head, every single one goes up a stop, every one goes down or up or down, whatever I want, or I could just shut them all off. See? So that's an easy way for you to without having 20 buttons on a screen, but same thing on this. If you want to master all the groups, if you just go for a specific group, you're just cycling through them. And that's one of the things that drives me crazy about this remote, is having to constantly press a billion buttons. It is 100% slower, but it is completely fail-safe no matter what you're using. I don't know if this was helpful, guys. I know I kind of messed it up. I just want to go really quickly over the power settings one more time because I totally goofed up on that. So while this is on screen, I just want to go over that the Profoto system is fractions of a stop. It's just in a numeric value of tenths of a stop. So this, people think, means half power because it goes up to 10, and that's not true, okay? This is halfway of your range. When you're at full power, you're at 10, right? 9 is 1 stop lower, therefore that's half power. 8 is quarter power. 1/8 power. 1/16. 32nd, 64th, 1/28th, and then 2/56th, which is nothing. It's ridiculously low powered. And then there's actually the Profoto D series that goes down to 1 if you need just the tiniest amount of space. And then you can go up by tenths of a stop. Or if you wanted to, if I was at 3, if I went up 0.5, that's half a stop. Or if I go up to 7, that's 7/10 of a stop. So it's really, really, you can really fine tune it. And that means a lot, especially for me with the special effects stuff. like I said, 2 or 3/10 of a stop can mean the difference between a wrinkle or a good texture. So there's that. Did this help you guys out? If you want a different version or a more concise, strung down version of this, you can go to @LastXWitness on Instagram. My IGTV totally has a video on that. And I did it through my phone, so it was a little more not off the screen a bit. I'm sorry about that. Always fun to hang out. Never know when you may drop knowledge I need. Yeah, I mean, I think that this doesn't mean just the Profoto system. This means light management, means what you want in a trigger, what you want in an interface, right? It also means you learn about frequencies and which ones. A lot of the times when you're buying triggers, when you're buying cheap triggers, I mean like $60, $30 triggers, they bought cheap licensing frequencies and they're gonna get stuck in static. So if you're someone that's in the middle of a field, sure, it'll work. If you're someone that's shooting in the middle of a street of Manhattan with 1,000 frequencies flying all over, there's a chance that that $30 Chinese-made knockoff came out of a box that smells like it was in a basement. It might not trigger, it might not fire, and that's the reason why, you know. So there's that. If there's any questions on this, please let me know. I would show you the Profoto Connect app, but I'm using the phone as my lav right now, and quite frankly, it's super intuitive. And that again is one thing I really like about Profoto, is that everything that they make interface-wise is super intuitive, and that's important because one, if you're working with new people that never use Profoto, they can get it in about a minute. Two, if you're someone that's never worked with Profoto and you went to a rental house and that's all they had, because usually they have Profoto more than other brands, you'll be able to use it. And a lot of reasons that a lot of us use this because we're so used to this system, having worked in commercial sets, that you just automatically rent this brand. And one reason they rent this brand is because it physically holds up. It can actually take a beating. A lot of the other brands that you're seeing out there at lower cost wouldn't survive a rental house, honestly. Otherwise, they'd be buying that brand. Especially here in New York, they would never even bother renting out a light in a certain class because it probably might not come back in one piece, and they got one rental out of it for 50 bucks when they spent a few hundred on it. So that's usually what happens. Is there any last questions on the trigger systems? I'm sorry this one was a little bit of a mess. I kind of rushed this one together. I just wanted to do it. Again, you guys can check out my IGTV for this video, and also one on proper C-stand setup if you want to learn how to do C-stands or properly set one up, and safety procedures and stuff like that. Let me know. It is sitting there on my IGTV, but I might do that live on this channel. If you guys would like to see that, let me know and I will go ahead and do that. I do have some special guests coming on the channel this month. Let me do this so I'm not talking like a bunch of puppet hands here. Sorry guys, let's do this. How's this? I am gonna have some guests coming on the channel, some colleagues and friends of mine. Why is Daniel so cool? The world may never know. Who asked that? Oh, Daniel Norton asked that. Oh, interesting. Had to set up a studio in a tent in a field recently. All worked fine. Of course it worked in a field fine. There's nothing interrupting your signals, okay? But I'll say that working here in New York, I've learned the hard way about cheap signals in my triggers. Pocket Wizard was like king forever on having the signals that no one else had, so it was pretty awesome. So that's pretty much a quick overview on the trigger system. If that helped, let me know. If you want me to do that, any other stuff like this, let me know, instead of just shooting demos all the time. And I have some guests coming, so you guys can come hang out and do a live Q&A like me and Daniel and Gavin did. If you missed that, go check that video out. If you're new to the channel, please hit subscribe, hit like, and if you guys want to, go ahead and if you want to pick up any of this stuff, adorama.com/lastxwitness. That's my affiliate link. If you guys are picking up any gear, make sure your cookies are enabled on your browser. And I'm sorry if I cut off myself on the screen at all. I should have paid attention more to this thing right here. I'm sorry. Any questions? I'll be going live this week on Adorama's Facebook. I'll be doing shutter drag stuff, you know, because that's apparently all people want me to do is ghosting and shutter drags. So, but if you guys want to get some rad shirts like this, the link is down below in the caption or description or whatever. You know, let me know. A grip video, please. Actually, you know who has really good grip videos? Daniel Norton Photographer on YouTube has some really great grip videos. I will be doing a C-stand etiquette video for my channel, probably, maybe even tomorrow. So be up on that. If you're new, hit the bell, please. Seth with that 200 IQ content. Yeah, thanks. I did use your affiliate link. Thanks so much, Patty. I do appreciate that. Not as much a question of being cool as much as being a real pro. Thank you so much. If you guys missed out, don't forget to follow my Instagram. I've been going live while I walk around the city, just doing live Q&As, and that was a lot of fun this past week. Thanks to everybody who came up on it. If there's anything else, please let me know. Speak now, forever hold your peace. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I got to pack all this junk up, though. I'll say that. I will say that. Get the Sheila shirt. Oh, yeah, I do have to get the Sheila shirt for myself. If you don't know who Sheila is, look at any lighting demo video I did on this channel. I'd like to see you, Daniel, and Gavin do another chat session, even with Gavin via video Skype. You know what? Maybe we will do that. Maybe we'll do a Skype video. But the time difference is the problem usually. Is shutter drag near rear curtain sync in front? So shutter drag is really just a slower shutter to a point where you can let other light other than your strobe affect your exposure. That being said, it's more about light control than the camera. I'll go over that. Join me on facebook.com/Adorama on July 9th at 5 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be going live. I'll be there for you guys. We'll go through all of it. Daniel wouldn't look good on me, but the Sailor Man does. Yeah, thank you so much for buying that shirt. Bye, Seth. Thanks for having us. Thanks for a nice day. Got a dash next. Okay, great. Guys, thank you so much. Sorry this one was like a little haphazardly. I hope there was some trinkets in there for you. And if you're curious, go rent one of those systems and try out the triggers and see if you like it. Of course, the habits aren't for everybody. There's definitely different systems out there for different reasons. But yo, go check it out and enjoy yourself. All right, I am going to get out of here. This has been a Rode Go mic production right here. Thanks so much. And yeah, I will see you guys soon, maybe tomorrow. If you're new, hit the bell. I go live whenever, all right? Bye, everybody. Later. Peace.